So questions are coming in. So there is one about governments, which I think governments, of course, play a major role, and communities as engaged citizens. So the question is what role you see governments play in the system change space, and what are the ways to get the government along in this journey? So I'm sure both Sybil and Sanjay have wonderful, interesting perspectives. So Sybil, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is an excellent question, and it actually fits squarely in the journey that I've taken in my professional experience, from being a practitioner on the ground, as I mentioned earlier, working with savings groups, to then my role at the foundation, where we are largely working with the public sector in key countries across Africa to build out their ability to drive women's economic empowerment outcomes. First, I'd like to, highlight Sanjay's point of building out public goods. And in many ways, the idea of a women's empowerment collective, so a savings group with added elements that can really propel a woman to increase her agency, and then have a number of outcomes achieved either through her livelihood, her agriculture, her health, and also taking that critical consciousness of gender aspect. That in and of itself could be seen as a public good. So really a lot of the work that I'm doing now is what I touched upon earlier. How do you start to converge government agendas around gender, and the integration of gender across various ministries, departments, and agencies, so that they could advance women's economic empowerment in a collective manner. So how do you actually get that convergence? So working strongly with government, providing evidence, and also, these groups are indigenous to any African country, and looking at how they can potentially build from that and reach women populations is a key part of the work that I'm doing. So building that awareness, building that appetite, building the opportunity. You have a lot of African governments as well that are taking IDA loans from the World Bank, or they're structuring large-scale national programs, such as what we're seeing in India under the NRLM, the National Rural Livelihoods Mission, that works with self-help groups. You're seeing that happening and taking root in Africa. You're seeing it in Uganda, and you're seeing it in Nigeria with the Nigeria for Women program, which is an IDA loan from the World Bank to the Nigerian government. And the program will be implemented, focused on women's groups through the Ministry of Women's Affairs. So you're seeing this idea of taking root of how do you actually drive better convergence of actors, and those actors being ministry, departments, agencies throughout government, towards an approach that is actually that is talking about a systems change for women, and systems change being across various disciplines. So for me, it's about that convergence. It's about looking at where there is current appetite and opportunity to really build outcomes that governments are already looking to advance. Over to you, Sanjay, maybe.
Thanks, Sybil. You pretty well captured the frame here. I just wanted to quickly add that driving a large-scale transformation, the government is a very important component and element of it. It anyway is a big component of the system, right? So I've always sort of wondered this, that there is no way to drive a large-scale change without the government, civil society, the private sector coming together, right? And the government brings the unique capability of a massive, multifaceted distribution system. It brings the ability to quickly extend across the length and breadth of the country, because that's how the governments are designed. They actually span the length and breadth of the country. What's very important is to understand how do we shift an equilibrium, because the governments operate in a certain equilibrium, and shifting equilibrium is different from shifting one point of an equilibrium. So many a times we have always tried to see that we should scale what works And the question that I always say is, if you want to really work at scale with the government, then we have to answer the question, what works at scale? And that's not necessarily the same question. Scaling what works is not the same as what works at scale. And the government is very good at working at scale. And it's very important for us to understand and design with the government, co-create with them, so that we can actually affect a transition in the country at scale. So I think I would sort of stop by saying, if you're serious about scale, then you have to work very, very deeply with the government in shifting the equilibrium.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think what you said really resonated with us and the way we see scalability of our system change approach at Tostan, really going through really the community members playing the role of active citizen and really engaging in changing the system within the local platforms, the local participation, civic participation platforms, and we see there the potential for scalability. We don't see any other potential of scalability if not going through the local government, and how citizens really can engage through and ask for accountability, ask for transparency, for more transparency, for allocation of resources where they think their needs are. So thank you for saying that. I think it's very relevant.